Oops. Hello, my fellow journeyers. Judy Jandora again. I'm coming to you today because a few people who have commented on my videos wanted to know kind of how I got to where I am in my spiritual journey. And so I've been putting it off a little bit. And I think it's time to go ahead and just bring it all on out to you. At least what I can remember to put in, and I'll do that now. Let's see. It's such a wide subject. But basically, it got started, I think well, there's no doubt in my mind right now that I was actually born for this, to be here right now, to be on this planet at this moment doing exactly what I'm doing, exactly the way I'm doing it. And the reason I believe that is because I didn't used to think that actually, but I've looked back, um, which I don't do very often, but I've looked back recently and just thought about, how different I felt growing up. How I felt like I never really fit in. I never, um, there were groups of people who came together, and we called them cliques or whatever. There were the cheerleaders, and there were the bookies, and there were, or the people who, the nerds, whatever you want to call them. You had the athletes, and sometimes these groups played together, and throughout all of my school year, 77% on here. I see that all the time. That's amazing, and it's 80818. Wow. Wow. Anyway, what I noticed about me is what I noticed about who I was as a child was that I didn't fit into any of those groups ever. I was always kind of floating from one to the other, um, not really necessarily wanting to really be a part of any one of them, yet hearing the stories the whole time I was growing up, um, of you need to be, you've got to fit in. Um, and I know that it felt strange for me. I think that there were a lot of times when I was kind of sad for myself, and I knew that I didn't fit in anywhere. Now, I see how I am now, and it's still that way. There are all these people who are coming together in these groups, and um, they stick, and they move through, and do all kinds of amazing things. And I find that always, my job, my energetic has always been to flow from one and then to another and back around. I'm sitting outside, and I've got neighbors who are playing with their electronic, or their toys. Anyway, I've always just kind of floated around from one group to another, and it's really funny because I remember coming up with a visual, a couple of years ago, and I remember even saying this to someone. I said, I feel like my role is kind of like the butterfly, to fly from flower to flower. and and that's what I'm doing, like full on right now. I'm flying from flower to flower. The flowers are the beautiful homes. They're the places that those gorgeous beings who, have created these homesteads, um, that are welcoming and loving and caring and nurturing, and allow me to now come and visit and stay for a little while and go fly off to another one and go fly off to another one and maybe come back and visit again. Um, but I've never been meant to really stay at any one. Um, and, I'm really getting that now, and I'm honoring that in myself, and I love that. So let me go back a little bit, because, that's kind of an overview of the energetic of it. But I started kind of getting glimpses of knowing that there was something more. Um, Fairly early on, there were these, metaphysical things that would come about, astrology and this and that. And, I'm in my 50s. So, back in my teens and 20s and even 30s, anything woo-woo, to me, it was pretty damn woo-woo. But I was always intrigued. There was always something that said, pay attention. And it wasn't until after my son was born, my daughter, I had really young. I had her when I was like 20 years old, and she's 32 right now. She'll be 33 in a couple of months. Um, and then 16 years later, I had my son, and I was almost 37 when I had him. And that whole scenario, I had dated his father for like 7 years, and just getting pregnant was the thing that really just tore the whole thing apart. And it was an adventure for me, because I went into um, this role of being victim central. Well, I had a pretty damn good role model. My mother was just brilliant at playing that role. God bless her beautiful soul. Um, she's now gone, and what that did was just, it ravished her being. And for me, I just, I didn't think I played that part at all. But man, did I pick that up when my son was really young, and I noticed that, everything changed. I couldn't go back to my old job. I used to sell homes for a builder, one of the top builders in the DC metro area, and really, in a big, huge portion of the United States. And I was really good at it. I was very successful. But I did it on my own terms. I didn't play the game the way they liked. And my boss used to say to me all the time, only if only you would just do it the way I tell you to do it, you would be hugely successful. And I just couldn't, I couldn't do the disingenuous sales spiel. I couldn't sell anything I didn't believe in, and these houses were really nice. And so I believed in them, and it was a really good product. And I was actually in the top 10 of the whole company one year. It was pretty cool. Got to go to Hawaii. But anyway, it was when I had my son, I knew I couldn't go back to that whole scene anymore. There was just nothing in me that would allow me to move back into that role at all. And so for about the first 4.5, 5 years after his birth, all I did was complain. I made myself the victim. I blamed his father for everything. I complained about him, and I literally turned him from a pretty decent guy into an absolute tyrant. Because you create your own reality, and that was what I was focusing on. And let me tell you, it's not a pretty creation at all. In fact, for the most part, that him that played that role of the tyrant, still can't stand me. And part of me doesn't blame him at all. But he kind of got stuck in that, and I let go of it. About 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. Anyway, what happened was, when my son was about 5 years old, I'd been feeling really weak, and I just thought maybe I was lazy. Well, what happened was, I had tumors in my uterus, and they were, forgive the truth here, but they were bleeding me dry, and I had just about no blood left in my body. My skin, my hands, my tongue, my lips, my face, everything was kind of yellow. And I moved. I sold my house, and I moved, and my son and I moved into a basement apartment. And the positive thing about this one was that when I got there, my son would go and be with his dad, every other weekend, or I think it was every other weekend. No, it was every weekend. Um, I think. No, it was every other. I don't remember. God. Um, but he would stay with him, and then he would have some extended time over the summertime. And what I noticed about my state, my energetic state, was so incredibly low, um, that I started meditating, and man, my meditations were incredible. They were really powerful. I had some out-of-body experiences with them. He was in a Montessori school, so I'd take him to school every morning. And when I got back, it felt like I had just climbed Mount Everest, and all I could do was go lay down on the couch, and I'd probably slept for about an hour, and then I'd pull my laptop out, and I'd open it up, and I'd start researching anything and everything that I was interested in. And one day, a thought popped into my head to explore what the flower of life was all about, the tree of life. And from there, oh my God, the rabbit hole just went on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and hasn't stopped. It really, from then on, it was nonstop. And I learned so much. I went into the deep, dark places where, I wanted to find out how this world is run. Why is it the way it is? Because it kind of sucks. Well, it did suck. It doesn't suck for me anymore, because I know how this works, and I know that focusing on that just brings it into my reality, and so I don't. But at that point in time, it was exploration time for me. So I went and found out all about the Illuminati and the backstory with them, and the Sumerian texts, and I researched all the different religions, and their origins. How did they come about? What was the real story about how the Bible even came into being? The New Testament, Old Testament. Old Testament is a much later telling of the Sumerian texts. The New Testament, you learn about, if you're studying it, you learn about, how Constantine brought in the Nicene Council, and how they chose, what books to leave to bring into the Bible, and which ones to leave out, and those became the scrolls, the from the desert. I forget what they're called. And a lot of those have been found. I think there are probably still some more to be found. I researched, the Egyptian culture, and the Mayan culture, and learned about 2012, and wow, what a trip that was. God. Let's see, I probably learned that in about 2006, 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. And, went into the whole death and destruction mode, and the whole world was going to be over, and, the earthquakes, and, Yellowstone, all of that stuff. I mean, I went in really, really deep, and, the good thing about it was that I didn't make it my destination. I think I always realized that, each one of the steps along the journey was just that, just a step along the journey, and that there was more to learn. And the more I learned, the more that I realized what I thought I knew. It wasn't necessarily all the truth. There's all kinds of information out there on the internet. So what I was also doing at that same time was I was learning to trust my intuition. Learning to hone discernment skills. And I was doing it all on my own. I didn't have anybody else around to talk to. There were some sites on the internet, but compared to what there are now, which is just, I don't think there's a person out there. I don't think there's a town that could collectively start the search for what's going on with the shift in consciousness and get all of the information that's out there, in a year. or more. It's really, it's beautiful right now. There's everywhere I turn, it's everywhere, and it's getting better and better. I'm quite convinced before too long. Um, well, I was going to say it would, be all over TV and that kind of thing, but I think that whole paradigm, for me anyway, is kind of going the way of the dinosaur, um, because it's old stuff. If anything, it'll be holographic, and I can just pull up a screen, a three-dimensional screen, or God knows, 4 or 5 or 6-dimensional screen, and be able to literally play in it to get my information. Um, and I know that that's what's coming up. And so, and I also know that what I focus on is what I bring towards me. So, I'm really quite committed to having it be really fun and going um, towards that reality that's already there. And so I'm excited, and I know that I'm already there in it too. I'm just I'm coming in from this perspective, from 3D, and all of the incredible lessons that I've accumulated along this way, to bring it back into that space and be able to enrich it with all that I've learned. Um, but anyway, so what happened was, that whole illness thing. I finally was able to get some health insurance, and ended up having surgery and had a hysterectomy, a partial one, and wow, I couldn't even believe the difference in my energy afterwards. It was like going from 3/4 dead to, ouch, mosquitoes, um, you know, alive again, and I had energy, um, and I ended up moving to another place, um, somewhere in the interim. Actually, just before my surgery, I'd moved to another place, um, and in the same town, and was had my surgery and was recovering from that. And then my brother, um, my beautiful, wonderful brother John, um, died. He got electrocuted, and died like 7 weeks after my surgery. And not long after that, that was devastating, but it was also amazing, because by then I knew, I knew that he was being released. I knew that it was his divine plan, and there was really, there was nothing to be sad about other than the fact that I was going to miss his presence here. But I knew that he'd be with me if I needed him. And I know that he's around me every now and then. I feel him, or I get a message, and I know he's there. And, I've also got both parents and another brother over there as well. And so, here I am at, not long after that, I moved again. I wasn't liking the energies in the place that I was staying. Sorry about my screen bouncing back and forth, but I'm outside and the wind's blowing and I'm loving it, so I hope you don't mind. So anyway, I ended up moving back to the area that I had lived in for almost 20 years before that, where there were lakes and beautiful trees everywhere, and got there, and wow, I hope that guy's finished soon. When I got there, I remember sitting there. I had my health back. I had been studying all this stuff for years. I had really, really done so much work on myself during this time. And I remember sitting on my couch, and I had just painted my whole house and decorated it, and it was beautiful. It was just gorgeous. And I was on a lake, and, trail systems everywhere. It was just a beautiful, beautiful area. My house was gorgeous. I decorated the whole thing, and I remember sitting there thinking, gosh, I don't have a life. What am I going to do? I don't even have hardly any friends. I had a few friends, but by then I was getting really woo-woo-y, and, I wasn't into gossip anymore, and, and cutting people down, and, talking about the weather, and what the kids were doing minute by minute, and what he said and what she said and all of that stuff. And I was just like, oh gosh, what do I do? And so I asked the question. I probably even said it out loud, and I will tell you, within no time at all, it was the most beautiful, amazing, and obvious set of circumstances that were set up for me. And what ended up happening is I co-created a group called Soul Journey with another friend of mine who it was part of the whole circumstances. She came in to make sure that it happened, and then kind of went out not too long after that, a little while after that. And so this Soul Journey group that I started, it was called originally Soul Journey to 2012, because it was probably 2008 that I did it. 19, 11, 12, 8 or 9, something like that, I don't know. And because I had it for 4 years, almost 4 years. Yeah. And so what I had pulled together was it was through meetup.com, and created this group and just put my intentions out there. And the first meeting was, I think there were 4 people the first meeting, and eventually it got up to sometimes being 20 some people at the meeting, and that was way too many. It's usually really good around 12 or under. But I held that group at a really cool little metaphysical bookstore. Patrick Spahr owned this bookstore called, hi Patrick if you're watching, called 10,000 Joys, and he had a little room in the back. And so we met there for probably a year and a half, and then it felt like I needed a little bit more freedom, because I wanted to be able to have wine, and I wanted to be able to have food, and stay past a certain hour. So I brought it over to my house. By then I knew that the people that were coming were people that I was going to love anyway, and that I didn't have any worries about bringing people into my house. And it really was perfect. I had a little fireplace in the living room and this big table, and sat around. And what I just did was said, bring something. I never charged anything for any of it, ever. But what I did ask was, if you can, bring something to share, whether it's wine or a drink that you like, or food. Whatever. And so it was always fun. We always had really delicious food, and plenty of wine, and we sat around, and it was freeform, because that's how I roll. I do not like structure, as you can probably tell by now. And there were a few people early on who wanted it to be more structured. There were just a few, and we tried it, and it really just did not work. It did not work. It didn't work for me, and it didn't work for anybody else. The ones that were structured, the groups that were out there that were really structured, didn't last long, and they didn't have many people coming. And over the years, I probably had 300 or 400 people, I don't know, somewhere around there, who came in and out of that group. And the friendships and the circles that were created were amazing. And there were other groups that got started because of it. There were a lot of healers that were coming, a lot of energy workers, anybody who was interested in researching. And I have so many beautiful friends now, that I met through Soul Journey. And so that was a brilliant, beautiful experience. And then after that, when I decided, well, there was a time when my son was 14, which is 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, that I knew things were getting ready to change in a big way. And my son went to live with his father, and I let go of my house, and I sold or gave away, pretty much everything that I owned. I had a few more things that I kept hold of, but not much. And then I went to stay with a couple of friends, went on a vacation too, went to Costa Rica, which was great. Met a lot of amazing people, and realized what my role is. I was sparking people everywhere I went. and everybody that I met taught me something. And it was this beautiful give and take, and it was magical. And it still is all the time. Like, it's always magical. Um, and so, I ended up staying with friends until October of last year. And in June of last year, well, February actually, I heard of, I had been watching Lisa Harrison on YouTube for several years. She was interviewing authors and people who, had some kind of standing in the awakening movement, and I really liked her style of interview, and I trusted her. I trusted her information, or at least I knew that, the people that she brought on were going to be, somebody that I'd probably want to find out about. So I was listening to her, and then I'm watching her interviews, and then in January or February, this was right after 2012. So 2012, December 2012, I got so sick. Energetically, I got taken down, and I got thrashed around. I had a hideous, horrible flu for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And talk about clearing and cleansing. Whew, that was crazy. And it was after that. It was after I had recovered from that. So it was like late January, early February. I was noticing that she was doing this thing called, talking about OPPT, One People's Public Trust. And I've never been into the whole, political thing, or, worried about what's going on with the money and the takedown, and, and I get how it's all run, but it just never did, nothing. There are a lot of blogs out there and a lot of people out there who are, promising that this was going to happen and that was going to happen, and, the money system was going to be reset. And by then I had gotten to a place where it just didn't do anything for me at all. But I trusted her enough that I wanted to go in and at least give one of the shows a full listen. They're 2-hour shows, 2 nights a week, Monday and Tuesday. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll at least give one of the shows a full listen, and then if I don't like it, then I'll move on. And it happened to be, it was pretty new because it just came out on the 26th of December, just before. And it happened to be a show, I think Heather and Tucci Giraffe was on that day, and Brian Kelly and Bob Wright and Lisa Harrison. And I listened to that show, and I don't know which documents, these were the documents that really showed that on an energetic level, on a high energetic level, Heather had released all of us energetically from this whole thing, literally. And when I understood it, when I understood it, I knew something huge had just happened. And I don't fall for much, not at all. And this, I felt in every cell of my body was something really, really amazing, really important, and I needed to pay more attention. And so I started listening every Monday and Tuesday night. And in March, I remember watching or listening to one of the shows, and it's on Blog Talk Radio, so you can get on and listen live. And there are callers that call in with questions and comments, and down at the bottom of the page is a chat room. And I started getting on the chat room fairly early on, and quickly made friends with several people on there, and carried on chats as we're listening and asking questions, and the hosts and co-hosts would would see the question and bring it up, and it would get answered. And all of a sudden, early March or something like that, March or April, whatever it was, I remember hearing this prompting. I was listening to one of the shows, and I was hearing this prompting from my guide saying, call in. And I'm like, I'm not going to call in. It scares me. I can't talk. I get nervous, and then I get giggly. And, as most of you know, if the ones that have listened to my show know how giggly I can get. And so, I was just like, no, I'm not going to. And the prompting was really strong, and it was like, yeah, You need to. Do it now. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I picked up the phone and I called in, and I was on for 10 minutes. And within that 10 minutes, of course, I was right. I was so nervous and so grateful to them for everything that they were doing. And the giggles, and I made everybody else giggle. And within that 10 minutes, I was offered my own show. And then they all went off to Morocco. and I didn't hear from anybody for a while. But it started in June, and the name of my show I called Enjoy the Show, about moving through this shift in a state of joy, because it's possible, because it's really the only way to really get through. You can't work your way through. You can't trudge your way through. You can't manipulate your way through. You can't, you can't push people out of your way to get through. You can't. You got to love your way through and be in joy. It says in the Bible there are many things in there that are right on, and one of them is, something like, to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be as a young child. And it's really about the innocence. It's about letting go of the jaded, oh, the skeeters are getting me, the jaded mindset. And anyway, so I called in, got the show, and in June it took off, and Brian Kelly was my first co-host, and we co-hosted all the way through until around Thanksgiving. But in October, we all started really coming together and decided, actually it was probably mid-September, it took about 6 weeks, but in 6 weeks we had people from all over the world coming together in the United States to do a tour throughout the southern states of the United States, starting in Tehachapi, California, and down into Arizona, Sedona, and some other really cool places down along. Met the Hopi elders, and it was quite a trip. Energetically, and physically and everything else, it was just amazing. It wasn't all pretty, but it was by far absolutely the way it was supposed to be, and in absolute perfection. But so this is getting close to now. So this was October of last year. We went through the trip. I let go of everything that I owned that didn't fit in the back of my van. Seriously. And that's still what I own, and less than that in some ways, because I think I've given away some stuff since then. So I've given away a whole household, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 3 different levels, fully furnished, beautiful stuff. Sold some of it and gave a whole lot of it away. Ah, my God, the clothes. But anyway, so the trip, the tour was called the Opal Tour, One People Absent Limits, and really people came from all over the world, and it was just absolutely amazing and incredible. And it started breaking up around December, right around Christmas actually. And I'm a mural artist as well, and I had a commission to do a mural down in Florida. And so what I decided to do, and that was late December, early January, so what I decided to do was go up to get my van that I had parked at a friend's house in Maryland, and grabbed it and came down and spent some time with my brother and my son. My son was with me. Unfortunately, he was sick the whole time. And came down here, and then ended up going to Morocco. I'm going to try to condense it a little bit more because it's 34 minutes. That's not so bad. But along the way, I had some other experiences that were so highly, it was another one of those you cannot under any circumstances deny that Spirit is guiding this, and there's nothing else that you can possibly do but allow and do it. Move into it. 44%. Unbelievable. And it's 34 on there. Constantly getting messages like this. The double numbers are huge, and 144 is huge for me right now. I don't know about you guys, but if it is, let me know. Let me know how things are going with you guys. Write, comment on the section under, on the YouTube page. If you've got any comments or questions or whatever, just let me know. But anyway, I ended up, one of the things that I was highly guided to do, and it was orchestrated, was to go up to Panama City. And along the way, I stopped and hung out with Bill Ballard for a couple of days and met Cary Ellis. And I'm actually staying at the ashram that she stays at when she's here, and her best, dearest friend, who is her co-author, Teddi, also is her house. It was her grandparents' house, and it's an ashram now, and that's where I'm staying. But they're on a book tour. But anyway, I met Cary when I was at Bill's, and then I went up to Panama City and brought some gifts. And these gifts were mushrooms. They were magic mushrooms. And it was about maybe 3 hours into being there that I realized why I was there, and that one of the reasons was that I was going to do a journey on mushrooms. And it wasn't going to be a little one. It was going to be a big one. No 2 or 3 or 4 grams. This was 5.5 grams of mushrooms. 5.4 because I needed the number 9, and I wasn't going to do anything more than that. Kim and I both did it. Kim did 7 grams. We have different body structures, and I had just lost a whole bunch of weight, and I knew that, and I was barely eating, so I knew that I didn't need much, and so 5.4, and I have to say it was obvious why I was asked to do it, because the experience was just stellar in so many ways. I'm not going to go into that right now, and I will eventually share that with you, because it's really important to, at least, because I did another one just before I took off to go to Morocco. I knew that I was being called to go to Morocco, and the whole Morocco trip I'll get into. Maybe I'll do the 2 of those together, because they really do fit together. Everything fits together, but there are certain things that are a little closer, and they are. So really my journey, my spiritual journey, has been very self-guided. Self meaning my full expanded self. And I've never been one to particularly follow any one person. I don't take classes for anything. I don't go to conferences. I know that a lot of people do, and it's, that part of their journey is important. And like I've said before, every single being has their own path, and it's supposed to be that way. The uniqueness of each person's journey. Seriously, it's 8:44 right now. The uniqueness of every person's journey is the brilliance of this creation. We're not meant to be lemmings. We're not meant to be, a nation of twins or a globe of twins. We're meant to have this incredible diversity. How horrible as a painter, and if I only had a couple of colors to paint with, and I wasn't allowed to mix them. Yikes. Oh my goodness. Even my painting, I didn't take lessons. My jewelry, I make jewelry too, beautiful jewelry, and all of that, it's all spirit guided. I act as a channel for this beautiful energetic from my higher selves, and probably other beings who are benevolent, because I don't ever run into negative entities. I mean, I see people who are playing the roles right now sometimes of negative entities, or they're whatever, but I just take my attention away from it and move on to what I do like, and it suits me beautifully. But I've never had the whole, darkness and fear and horrible body pains and, entities attached to me and anything like that. I've worked with people. I do transformational thought coaching, and I've worked with people to help them release theirs, because it's all thought. It literally everything in your existence. I'm shaking my head because I know how hard it is. I'm still struggling with getting this purely clarified, but every single day it's notching up. It's getting clearer. Um, but your whole existence is literally your consciousness. And one of the things I did learn hugely in my mushroom trip was that I was being showered at every moment of every now in absolute pure love beyond my comprehension. And what I was being given was exactly who I am. So whatever is in my energetic field, whatever I choose to allow in my energetic field, is what I get to see in my reality. And the minute I decide to shift that fully, you know, because if you shift it just a little bit, you get a little bit of a break, but you're also going to be tested on every angle. You're going to do this for yourself because you can't fake this. You can't lie about it. You can't. This is not, a journey that you can do without being completely, totally in full integrity. And that means integrity. You have to integrate all into the wholeness and realize it's all you. And it's the reflection of who you believe you are. So here I am now. I'd been being told for years, actually, probably 6 years, that I was going to do something eventually that would have something to do with video. And this is just the beginning, I know. And, I've released everything to be at the beck and call of my my joy, my journey, and you're me and I'm you. And so I do this for us, and I do it absolutely in pure love. And it's getting purer and purer all the time. And with that love, the natural outpouring of that is joy. It can't not be. So the old me would have said it's not always easy, but the truth is it is always easy. If I had a different perspective and said, okay, I've got $40 left in my name, which is actually the truth right now, and I don't have any mural jobs, and I don't have anything coming right now, so I've got to work something out. I've got $40 to my name, and I'm completely okay, because I know it'll come. I know it always does. It always comes, and whatever I need to guide me along on my journey, I get. And if this is, if I'm sitting here and not having the incredible, typical urges to go and do my painting or go out and market myself or, do my jewelry right now, I cannot wrangle up that energy. So I know I'm not supposed to. There's no doubt in my mind, because when I'm supposed to, it comes on, and I have no doubt this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So it's what I'm doing. And so I don't know. I don't have to. What I do know is that this thing is going to get... I know my life is getting ready to blast wide open. And it couldn't have done it before now because I wasn't ready. I had a lot of ego stuff to take care of. And, a lot of my doubts. And I still have some of those to play with right now. But I'm okay with that too. Because at least I know that they're there. And I know as they come up, how to deal with them, and eventually, as it gets really obvious, I do. And the more I help you, the more I do. I do private sessions and on Skype or phone or whatever. And every time I do a session to help guide someone through the thought process of how they're creating, I also learn myself. I also expand myself. Makes sense, doesn't it? Since you're me and I'm you. And I love you. And I love me. It just works that way. All right, I think that's enough for now. Oh, and I have 3 beautiful grandkids. I'll tell you more about all of that later. I love you so much. Mwah. And I think from now on, my sign-off, and then I probably will change it all the time, but maybe not, it is joyful journeys. Works, doesn't it? Love you. Bye.